This is a full interview record with Gloria for the Rebrew District Fusheng Master's Project. When you first see Rebrew District's Fusheng, what do you think the campaign is asking people to do?
So my first impression is that the project wants people to stop treating used coffee grounds as waste and instead collect them and turn them into something that can be used again. It feels like the project is not only talking about sustainability but also encourage people to actually take part in the process of collecting, reusing, and continuing the material's life.
Does the idea of turning coffee grounds into an everyday reusable material feel clear to you? Is there anything that needs more explanation?
The general idea is clear, but the phrase everyday reusable material still feels slightly abstract to me. I would want to know what the coffee grounds can actually become, such as sachet, craft materials, plant-related materials, or something else. I would also want to understand what kind of treatment or processing is needed before the grounds can be reused safely and cleanly.
If you saw this campaign in a Shanghai office building, nearby cafe, social media posts, or website, would you want to learn more and why?
Yes, especially if I saw it in a cafe or office building, because it would feel directly connected to the environment I'm already in. I would probably want to learn more if the visual design was attractive and I could quickly understand what the coffee grounds can eventually become. On social media, I think the first visual impression and how quickly the idea is communicated would matter even more.
Which part of the project feels most trustworthy and which part might be questioned?
The most believable part is probably the fact of cafes generally produce a large amount of used coffee grounds every day. It is a very visible waste material, so the starting point of trying to reuse it feels reasonable. And the part that may be questioned is whether the coffee grounds can actually be reused effectively and over the long term, and whether some applications are generally useful rather than simply looking sustainable. For example, with plant care or craft materials, I would want to see realistic methods, limitations, or actual examples. Otherwise, it could risk feeling like sustainability only at the conceptual level.
What should the homepage explain first? What the project is, how to participate, what coffee grounds can become, whether it is safe, or why the campaign is trustworthy.
I think the first priority should be explaining what the project is and what coffee grounds can become. Users need to understand very quickly what problem and project is addressing and why the idea is interesting. After that, the website should show how people can participate, safety and credibility, and also important. But I see it more as supporting information. If the homepage begins with too much certification or safety information, it may feel slightly heavy.
In the journey, find the station, view the guide, try reuse idea, share the result. Which step feels most nature and which step might make people drop out?
I think view the guide feels the most natural because it requires very little commitment. I can simply look at the instructions and quickly decide whether I'm interested or not. The most likely drop-off point is probably try a reuse idea, because once people actually have to make something, they need materials, time, and effort. And there may also be cleaning involved. So if the guide looks too complicated or requires buying a lot of things like the materials, I must stop here.
If the final project uses participant nicknames, voices, short video, clips, or quotes, what kind of presentation would feel respectful and professional?
I think the most important thing is to clearly tell participants in advance that what material will be used, where it will appear, and to get their consent. If a nickname is used, there should not be too much additional information that could identify the person. For voice, video, clips, or quotes, I would want them to be presented without taking the participant out of context or changing the original meaning of visual effect. Ideally, the quote should keep enough context to remain accurate. And for important uses, participants could be given the chance to confirm the final presentation before the publication.
If you had to explain this campaign to a friend in one sentence, how would you describe it?
So I would say Rebrew District is about giving coffee a second life after the last sip.
Since you enjoy milky, nutty, and slightly sweet latte-based coffee, does this make you more sensitive to coffee aroma, sensory associations, and lifestyle atmosphere?
Yes, when I drink coffee, I do not only focus on the coffee beans themselves. I care quite a lot about the overall taste and feeling. Milky, nutty, and slightly sweet flavors make me associate coffee with warmth, relaxation, colder seasons, and the atmosphere of a cup of coffee.
If a campaign extends coffee grounds from drink experience into aroma tags, such as plant care or craft materials, does this connection feel natural to you?
I think the connection is really natural. So first, used coffee grounds still have a very recognizable smell. So even outside the drinking experience, they still remind people of coffee. And turning them into another usable material feels more like an extension of the coffee experience rather than an unrelated reuse idea.
From a landscape garden design background, could coffee ground reuse connected with urban greenery, plant care, desk plants, or community gardens?
Of course, the plants are probably one of the easiest way for people to understand coffee ground reuse. In an urban office context, desk plants, shared office greenery, or community gardens could all create a very visible connection. However, I think it should be based on accurate plant care knowledge rather than simply telling people that used coffee grounds can be added directly to every plant.
If the website includes a coffee grounds plus plants section, should it focus more on practical plant care methods or ecological aesthetics and lifestyle?
If I had to choose, I would prefer practical plant care method and then use ecological aesthetics to make the information more attractive. If it only shows beautiful images and a green lifestyle feeling, I might like the design but not actually try it. Ideally, it should first explain which plants are suitable, how the material should be used, and what people should be careful about, and then support that information with appealing visuals.
Since you enjoy handmade activities, do you prefer quick outcomes or a slow process of experimenting and making? Would that affect your preference for DIY lab or home-based DIY?
I enjoy both, but in everyday life, I usually prefer crafts that are easy to start and give me visible feedback relatively quite quickly. If there are too many steps or too many material to prepare, the barrier feels higher. However, in a DIY lab, where the tools and materials are already prepared for the guest, I would be more willing to try a slower and more experimental process. So the setting would definitely affect my choice.
Should the reuse guide offer both a quick start version and a slow crafts focus version?
Yes, I think it should be. Different people are willing to spend different amount of time. A quick start option could make it easier for first-time user to participate. For example, with something that can be completed in a short time, a slower craft-focused option could be for people who already enjoy DIY or want to explore the material further. In this way, the project would not feel too complicated for casual user or too simple for the people who want to enjoy making things.
For coffee ground craft, what matters most to you? Appearance, aroma, sustainability, plant connection, or the calming making process?
For me, appearance and aroma would probably come first because they are the most immediate reason why I would want to take an object home and keep using it. Sustainability and the plant connection would come next. Sustainability is really important, but if something is sustainable without being attractive or useful, I might not keep it for very long. The calming process of making it would be an additional benefit.
If the homepage needs to express urban offices plus nature security, should plants, maps, materials, or human participation be the most prominent element?
I would make plants and materials the most prominent element, with human participation as a second layer. Plants communicate nature very quickly, while real coffee grounds can represent the idea of circularity. Images of people collecting coffee grounds in offices, making something from them, or caring for plants could then show how the cycle actually happens. I think maps can still be useful, but they may work better on a secondary information page rather than as the strongest element on the homepage.
Could the project become too design-led and weaken the material reality or actual action? If so, how should it balance visual design with practical sustainability?
Yes, I think that is possible. If the visual identify become extremely published, but users still do not understand where the coffee grounds go, how they are processed, or what they can actually do themselves, the project may start to feel more like a sustainability themed brand image than real sustainable action. So a good balance would be to let design attract people into the project, then The real information and the practical actions make them trust and participate in it. For example, the website can still be visually appealing, but it should also show real coffee grounds, the actual collection process, realistic reuse method, and the clear steps that people can follow. If the project can also show how much coffee waste has been collected and where it eventually goes, it will feel more credible.